Good morning to everyone who is listening. Today we will conduct a session entitled Terjah Minda or Mind Expansion. I was asked to participate in this section organized by UMS Labuan International Campus Library yesterday about this time. So when the committee approached me, I asked them what are the things that I should be saying or sharing. And the committee indicated that any topic is allowed as long as it is intellectually stimulating, does not touch on sensitive topic, and is outside the realm of politics. Well, I told them as a result, 80% of the things I wanted to convey were eliminated. So, in this context, I would like to discuss how a university can interact with the local community. Interaction here means engagement. How the university can engage with the community and how we can help solve the problem within that particular community. It is often said that lecturers' responsibility is to impart knowledge to the students, to teach students. However, a lecturer's responsibility is more than that, which include a number of areas that are intimately tied with the local communities. I would like to share a little bit about Labuan Faculty of International Finance. In our faculty, there are 45 active lecturers with different fields of expertise, ranging from the international offshore and finance, Islamic finance, international business, and also international marketing. Now, how would that experts contribute back to the community? And how might this professional be a benefit to the community? One of the methods that we practice here is conducting action-based research. Now, action-based research is based on the problems that are faced by the community. So, we identify the problem, and once we have identified the problem, we look for alternative solutions. And these alternative solutions are provided to the community in terms of action. They will take action based on the alternatives provided by the university. I would like to quote a little bit on this endemic moment that we are facing now. The COVID-19 pandemic has actually restarted the entire economic system in the world, and we can no longer operate using the existing or the common channel that we are accustomed to before the pandemic. As an illustration, the world now is currently facing food shortage in any way of the country, and owing to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Specifically, the conflict have affected Malaysia in the rising cost of living. Now, this is an action-based problem. The quick termination of food imports APIs was a recent event by the government of Malaysia, and one would like to ask why that did this thing happen? Why did this transpire? A cancellation of AP is due to the contributing factor in the devaluation of ringgit Malaysia against the US dollar. The cancellation of AP was a wise decision so that we are no longer bound to the current supplier and payment currency. We can now look for other sources of supplier, and we can pay not necessarily using US dollar, but we can pay using the currency of that particular country. Importers can now seek out new suppliers and do future transactions using alternative currency. To make it easier to understand, let us consider an example. Consider importing poultry feed or grain. For example, suppose we import maize feed at 100 ringgit for 50 kilo, and the currency rate was 1 USD to RM for ringgit 20 cent prior to the pandemic. Today, 1 USD is equivalent to 4 ringgit 40 cent. This is an increase of 20 cent. So, what would this imply when we are importing things? This would imply that we are compelled to pay 120 ringgit for the same 50 kilogram of grain that we imported before, an increase of 20 ringgit each sack. And this cost will be passed to the consumer via the increased price of chicken meat and in the market. So we can see that it's a chain reaction. Okay? When we import feed, and feed is important for us to grow chicken. And all of these costs will be interconnected with one another. Okay? So that is why the AP was terminated, and an option to look for suppliers were provided. Okay. Similarly, what are the role? Now I'm going to share with you what role can a university play to address that particular issue, the high cost of living, rising high cost of living. Yeah. So there are two significant factors, namely the importation of maize, feed, and chicken meat from other countries. Examining the entire local supply chain for chicken product is one of the most critical aspects in resolving this issue. Now, this is one mistake that we normally do not touch upon. Whenever a government provides a program, for example, they ask you to grow your own vegetable or grow more vegetable, or have your giving a lot of budget for more agriculture product to be produced, it did not take into consideration the full supply chain. Now, farmers can produce, but once they have produced, where are they going to sell? Who are the collectors who will distribute the produce that they have already have in their farm? Okay, so this is where the academics can do research to determine the exact cost or strategy in order to help not only the farmers but also the consumer in minimizing the cost. When value is added to a raw material, the price of the commodity will increase. I'll give you an example. When you buy an egg, it might cost you now 50 cents. But once that egg is added value, for example, you cook it or you boil it, the same egg increase value into 1 ringgit because you've already added value to it. Now the same egg, if you put a little bit of seasoning, for example, curry or kunyit or something like that, then the same egg will be worth around 1 ringgit 50 cents to 2 ringgit in the market. So this is what value creation is all about. Going back to the animal feed, it is common to state that animal feed accounts between 40 to 50% of the total cost of farming. And we are importing this animal feed. With the devaluation of the ringgit Malaysia, the cost will eventually go up, double or triple. Yeah? Therefore, the only reasonable recommendation is to make your own feed or to grow your own feed. In this case, plant your own cornfields. Yeah? It only takes around 100 days for a corn to mature. You can harvest it within 100 days. However, we cannot grow merely 10 acres of maize because it is not economical. It will not be financially beneficial and feasible. In this instance, we cannot utilize traditional methods such as physical labor. We must plant at least 500 acres of corn using sophisticated irrigation and farming technology equipment. Companies can attain economics of scale to increasing output and decreasing expenses. This is where the university may assist in calculating the optimal size for a business to obtain economic of scales. The university is also a place where it possesses technological expertise. Yeah? In this case, in UMS, we have the Faculty of Sustainable Agriculture, FPL in Sandakan, and it is a home to specialists in the agriculture sector. Additionally, we can also generate our chicken using incubators. Therefore, we do not have to wait for chicks from other suppliers, but we can have our own chicks for our chicken farm. Okay? Again, it is very important for us to look at the whole supply chain. We may not have sufficient land in Labuan because the Labuan Faculty of International Finance is located in Labuan. So I'm going to use Labuan as an example because 90% of the food from Labuan is actually from outside. It's imported from Menumbuk, from Kuala Penyu, and mainly from Sabah. We do not have sufficient land in Labuan, but we can utilize Kuala Penyu district, which contains enormous unexplored acreage of land. If we work together with Kuala Penyu and we plant our maize there and we build our chicken farm there, it will definitely help the high cost of living in Labuan. When chicken farms are constructed, food security will be created for the residents. And we will no longer be completely reliant on food import or food from outside of Labuan. We are also no longer vulnerable to variation of exchange rate because we control the market, the local market, locally. In addition, by planting our own corn feed, hatching our own chicks, and building our own farm buildings, we create new employment opportunities. Now, employment opportunities is one of the most important topic that must be addressed by the government, and the university can help in creating new opportunities, employment opportunities. Yeah, we must begin to consider generating our own food in order to reduce our current food import expenses, which is more than 50 billion currently every year for the whole of Malaysia. If import costs can be cut in half within 2 years, 25 billion will remain within the country instead of leaving, and we actually create a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of new job opportunities throughout the supply chain. Yeah? Throughout the supply chain, meaning from hatchery to the chicken farm, up until when you go to the slaughterhouse, up until to the consumer table. There is a lot of job opportunities that can be created because the industry is being done locally instead of just importing chicken meat from overseas. One of the most important thing for this to be a success, all stakeholders must collaborate. Respective government authorities must support the project and exert extra effort to give farmers with competent advice and financial assistance. Without the participation of diverse stakeholders, the strategy will merely be a paper filed as a university assignment. Yeah? In this example, we investigated why importation of food APIs was cancelled, the impact of currency fluctuation on food import, and the possibility of analyzing the entire supply chain. This was discussed previously. Yeah? And the concept of producing our own animal feed by planting vast areas to allow the economic of scale theory to take effect has also been discussed. And it's not impossible. It can be done. In addition, we can produce our own chicken meat. The cost of living will be reduced to a more bearable level. Job will be created, money will circulate more in the local market, and we will have reduce our import bills. Okay, so this is one example how the university can collaborate with the community or the industrial partners to discover answers to existing problems. The cost of living also includes household expenditure. According to 2019 Department of Statistics Malaysia household expenditure data, the category for housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels account for the majority of people's expenses, which is 23.6%. Now, most of these expenses is being paid for the utility. Yeah? Utility costs will continue to rise if no alternative is found, particularly for Labuan. With a population of 90,000 people, the use of renewable energy sources should be encouraged. One could argue that it is difficult to find the necessary technology or the necessary people or partners to finance the project. But do you know, in Labuan itself, there are financial institutions who are ready to provide this type of finances. Yeah? If the stakeholder collaborate with the university, it would be a possible way to investigate the offering of green bond. Now, green bond is one of the new bonds. It's not new, but it is not yet being applied in Malaysia extensively. But green bonds are actually offered by Labuan-based financial institution that champion the agenda of renewable energy. As long as it is connected to green energy, renewable energy, these financial institutions are ready to provide the green bond. And green bond can amount from 1 billion up until 10 billion ringgit Malaysia. Optional technology include solar, wind or waves power. With the few resources we have, we must plan for the next 10 to 20 years to ensure a sustainable future, and the effort begins today. However, if the stakeholders do not work together and universities are not engaged in helping to conduct or to prepare a paperwork on the way forward for sustainable energy in Labuan, these things might not happen. The last portion of my discussion relates to Labuan duty-free status. Labuan is actually one of the oldest duty-free places in Malaysia. Even before Malaysia was created, Labuan was known as Victoria. And Victoria was a trading post created by the British. And prior to 2017, Labuan reaped enormous profit from many firms flourishing trading. Despite the fact that there is a policy change that may appear to be minor in 2018, the ripple effect actually affected numerous parties. In 2018, a regulation was enacted that altered how firms can operate in Labuan, specifically in the transshipment and buttering industry. Some measures are effective. Some policies can be replicated throughout the nation, while others need to be taken with a grain of salt, taking into consideration the situation of Labuan. Since Labuan is the oldest duty-free island in Malaysia, it is necessary to restore the island status as a transshipment port by removing restrictive rules and reviving barter trading. These policies are created by members or departments within that particular organization, and policies are made by humans. And it is high time for us to look into this policy if it really gives back to the people in Labuan. In light of this, the university can play an active role in aiding the preparation of a policy paper. That is one of our responsibility. We are required to help the government or the local authority to prepare policy paper for the good of the community. Yeah? And this includes perspective of all relevant parties, all relevant stakeholders related to the policy change or new regulation that have altered business climate in Labuan, and why the prior policy should be reinstated. Okay, prior policies, I mean here is before 2017. The decision making was made locally. We do not have to go back to Putrajaya. We do not have to submit reports to someone who is 2 hours away from Labuan. The decisions were done locally because some decision needs to be done effectively on the spot using local knowledge. So the key local government departments should be able to decide on the day-to-day operation on the island without having to wait for overseas decision maker to fly in for a 2-hour meeting every 2 months. Now, this is a very big hurdle for the officers in Labuan to conduct their work. Okay? As stated previously, the focus of my sharing today is to let the people know the university's position as on how to engage with the local community development and the university role as a catalyst in the future. Action research, the example given was the chicken farm and animal feed. Opportunity creation, we use the example of new employment, new businesses, new idea development. Examples were given, renewable energy, and policy research can serve as a catalyst and can be done by the university. The university can also sit in the board of any government-linked companies or even in the private sector as an advisor, because there is one part whereby we need to link what is currently happening and what will happen in the future. And this is where the university can play a role through their research capabilities. All of the aforementioned examples can only be a reality, again, if the stakeholders here are government agencies, commercial sectors, and also the general public, willing to acknowledge the change, and a change is necessary to make the greatest decision for future generation. We are doing this not for us. We need to do this for the next generation, for the next coming generation, because if we do not do this now, most of them will have a very hard time to even live in our country. Yeah? There are numerous internal and external signals telling us whether as an individual or as a nation that we must embrace modern technologies. More useful and helpful policies and regulation must be enacted and prepared for cross-border trade and workforce mobility. Because if we look at Labuan, we look at Sabah, Sarawak, we are actually in the Bimiaga region, the Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines region. And these 4 countries or this region is housing around 420 million people. And this is our market. This is the market where we need to be well versed of. Okay? This is how China is using their population of 1.3 billion, 1.7 billion. They can even use their renminbi to do their trading, international trading. The same goes for India with 1.3 billion people. So with numbers, then there is a market. The same thing that we need to do here. And to do that, we invite the stakeholders to engage with the university so that we can have a better research output, and we not only research output, but we can implement those particular research in the future. Yeah? We cannot handle all these issues on our own, but we may use the resources made available to us to manage the change. Sometimes we often see that people are asking more and more things from the government. But currently, we have a lot of assets, we have a lot of things that are underutilized. We should actually help the government see that we can do a lot more other things rather than just asking for new things. The existing things are there, but it's not fully utilized. Okay? To conclude, I would like to thank the organizer of Terjah Minda program under UMS Labuan International Campus Library for inviting me to express my personal opinion related to the topic, the role of a university in local community engagement. I appreciate the opportunity and I am confident that we will overcome future problems and obstacles if we are to work together hand in hand, and please use the university as a stepping stone to make sure that we have a better future for our future generation. With that, thank you very much.